Welcome back, everyone, to the second episode of the Crew Review.
Woohoo!
Ooh. Yes, I'm glad that y'all are tuning in. We actually just did this episode, or we watched the movie. It was Call of the Wild for this episode, which is what we are reviewing. We watched it a month ago, but life happened, the virus happened, and here we are. But we're going to try to get some more episodes out very quickly here soon. So, sorry to keep you waiting, but it was worth the wait, because here you are to hear our beautiful voices.
Here we are.
Here we are. Beth, hit us with the synopsis of Call of the Wild.
Yeah, so basically the story of the movie is about a dog named Buck. He is taken from his California home and taken over to the Yukon Territory during the 1890s gold rush. And there he's struggling to survive his new masters and also the wilderness.
I still don't know how you do that without looking, because that was pretty much word for word. As she looks at the camera, she memorized. And it was a month ago when we did this. And wow, I'm just impressed.
Thanks.
Killed it.
Appreciate.
We would do handshakes, but
Corona.
not during this time.
Not during this time, no.
Okay, so I guess we'll move into the beginning. We have what happened. We're gonna break it up by masters, because Buck has different masters throughout the movie/book. Beth, what happens in the beginning of the book?
But before you go on, just a reminder.
Yes.
Spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, you can still stay. You just will be spoiled. Okay? Sounds good. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about all the things now.
And they may have already read the book and knows what
Everything.
happens.
That's right.
So, true.
Our first movie that we've done based on a book.
Yes,
Ooh,
that's true.
true. All right. Well, the beginning of this book, we are in beautiful, sunny California. And Buck is a giant St. Bernard, so big that when he runs through the house, things fall off the walls. But he is there, and he's the dog of the mayor, so he basically has free roam over the whole town, causes mischief, basically breaks a bunch of stuff, steals food, and has a great life, but he ruins the mayor's party, which is really unfortunate. It's left outside, and then he's dog-napped. Then he's locked away in a crate, and he has to survive until he gets somewhere where they open up the crate, and then he's ready to fight, because what on earth has happened? He has no idea where he is. He's been in this crate for a very long time. The man in the red sweater comes, and basically they have a showdown, and the man in the red sweater beats him into submission, and Buck is then sold off to be a sled dog.
Yes.
So that's our opening.
Very good, Beth.
Thanks.
Yeah. One of the... I was gathering my thoughts, Yeah, well, that happened. At the beginning, he was taken away, or no, he was kidnapped by those dog nappers. In the book, it was the gardener, the mayor's gardener, who was familiar with Buck and knew Buck would follow him around because he trusted him, and he was the one who sold him off. In the movie, I think it was just some random person who ever heard that, or just saw him and was like, that's a big dog.
In the town,
Yeah.
Because what's happening is the 1890s gold rush is going on. So all these men are going out to the Alaskan territories, and they need really big dogs to help carry all their stuff or to pull their sleds. And so a dog like Buck is worth a lot of money during that time.
So I read the book in elementary school, and I did not read it in preparation for the movie, and still haven't, just because I wanted to be surprised. And I remember like nothing. But I'm glad I have a different perspective from it.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
in the book, is it the mayor or the judge? Because in the movie, I think it's the judge.
Oh, no, it's in both. It's the judge.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty sure it's the judge in both.
He's a judge. Well, I thought it was very interesting that they had a big name like Bradley Whitford as the judge. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's been in a lot of things. He was in The Post with Meryl Streep, and then he was in West Wing. Who loves West Wing out there? I'm a big West Wing fan, all right? Good stuff.
You are.
But it started and I got really excited that he was gonna be in it, and then he's in it for 5 minutes, maybe.
Yes.
That's like it, because it's just that opening little segment there. So I was like, okay. I was low-key disappointed about it, but it's okay. It's fine. It was still good.
Brief appearance.
Brief appearance. But I liked how the opening kind of set the stage of Buck being a pet. You know, he's a pet rather than
A work dog.
A work dog, you know, and he definitely is spoiled, and he completely crashes the judge's birthday dinner.
It is in fact the judge.
It is the judge.
Judge Miller.
You're good.
I led you astray.
It's okay.
We wanted to confirm, so.
Yeah.
But he completely crashes the judge's like dinner, his birthday dinner,
Oh,
which
my
made
heart
me
just
cringe.
Oh, it's very
Can't
cringy.
handle
Beth
it.
does not like these things in
No,
movies.
no.
If anything gets destroyed, like anybody's house gets destroyed or anything, it just causes stress for Beth. And I'm sure that she felt it.
I
Yes.
felt her feeling it. I just felt
Like
her
I cringed
collapse.
for Beth.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Beth, oh, she's going to be awake all night thinking about this.
Yeah, it's like some movies I can't handle. Cheaper by the dozen. Christmas with the Cranks. Things like this where things are destroyed.
Cat in the Hat.
Cat in the Hat. I get so stressed out. It is really bad. And this whole scene of him destroying this picnic. But also, let's just talk about these people and the fact that they have this huge dog who clearly loves food. And they put this huge picnic outside on a table and completely leave it unattended. They don't tie up the dog.
Tie up the dog.
Everyone's taking a photo.
A dog's going to be a dog. They had that coming.
Right. Like they know his habits and his behaviors at
He's
this point.
not well behaved. Like, there's no part of like the opening that shows that he's well behaved, that he's going to listen.
Right.
Buck does what he wants.
Buck does what he wants.
Buck's like a honey badger.
He don't
takes
care.
what he wants.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And then, all right, so then we move on to he's kidnapped. Man in the red sweater is beating him into submission. And in the movie, they dumbed this down big time. Like,
Yes.
the whole book in general was dumbed down to a very, very, I don't even know, like they made it more kid-friendly, but they definitely did not even beat the dog. They show a shadow of him getting hit by the club one time, and that was the only violent scene in the whole movie pretty much. It was like...
Which granted, like, I'm a little grateful for because reading it in the book, I was just so upset. Like, he gets beaten, like, somewhere between 12 and 20 times.
he basically almost dies.
Yes, it was very sad, very violent, and I'm sure it was very accurate to the time frame.
Probably.
But yeah, if you're going to take your kids to see a movie, you want to make sure
I mean,
there's
I guess
not-
if they were going to keep all that in there, it could be PG-13 or even R, depending on how graphic they got. So,
Yeah.
Well, and that
Probably not.
opens up one of my automatic, I don't know, not pet peeves, I don't know what you would call it, resistances to movies that are, or books that are made into movies, is that I always get a little like, ooh, when I find out they're going to make one of my favorite books into a movie, because it's hard to do. It is so hard to put like everything from a book into a movie.
Yeah.
And so I also wonder, a lot of that was probably time. They didn't feel like the beating, like showing all of those different pieces were, now I think they implied that it happened like over and over again, and it was months in there. The narration kind of said it briefly. But I definitely don't think they had the time to spend it to show as well. So kind of two parts there.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing to me is the copy of the Call of the Wild that I read was 89 pages. So I was like, oh, surely they'll fit all this in here.
Yeah.
And they actually left out a lot and combined things and then watered it down. But I also think they were targeting children, and so they pulled out a lot of the violence of the book.
I thought the same thing. I was like, they have to cover literally everything in this book and then just make up stuff to make it fit a full-length movie because it's so short. But they left out a lot of stuff and then just made some other stuff up. But
Did they make a lot of stuff up? Were there pieces in there that were definitely like
not in
big
the
chunks
book.
that not in the book?
Yeah, and I'll get into it more as
Okay.
we go on because there's some that I actually like that they put in. Like it was some nice touches, but they were definitely not in the book. So anyway, so I guess that's kind of everything up to that point. Anything else of that master, judge, and red
So we
sweater
never see
man?
the judge
So-
again.
No.
You don't. The judge is never seen again.
Sadness.
Then,
Judge and his family.
Yeah.
moving on.
So the next master, so the man in the red sweater, he is, breaking all these dogs into submission, and then he sells them for a very large profit to men going to the Yukon. So Buck gets sold to a guy named Perot and his partner Francois. But in the midst of changing of hands between masters, he escapes briefly for a small period of time while he's in Alaska, runs through the crowd. All these people are watching this giant dog, and he runs into John Thornton, who's very important to the story later on. But they instantly kind of bond. They have a good moment of friendship, and then Buck returns the harmonica that John Thornton had lost to him. So they have this good moment, and then Buck is sold off to Perot. Perot is a Canadian mail deliverer during this time, and he delivers mail all throughout the territory in a dog sled with his partner Francois. And they have a team of dogs, sled dogs. He was supposed to buy 2 dogs, but only got 1 because he just got Buck. And the lead dog is Spitz, who's in charge.
Spitz.
Of the sled.
Of the slog. Yeah.
The slog. So Spitz led the slog.
You know,
The slog.
a good old slog. Everybody needs one of those.
If somebody asked you, hey, could you pass me that slog? What would you give them?
A slug.
A slug?
I'll give them a slug.
I was thinking, the first thing that came to my mind was like a frothy cold beverage. A slog of this. Like, I don't even know. I'll take 2 slogs over here. Beth, what would you give? If somebody said, pass me that slog.
I don't know, like it's a slimy log.
A slimy log.
A slimy log.
What she said on the record.
A slog. A slimy log. I like that.
And now you know how our brains work.
Yes.
Who knows?
Fascinating. So
There you
Buck.
go.
Yeah.
Back to
Yes.
Buck.
To
Like
Buck.
all the
And the
wild-
sleigh. And Spitz.
Yes. So he arrived at the frontier, and and this is the first time he's ever seen snow.
Yes.
They did a really good job at, even though it was a computerized dog, like making a dog, like how he reacted to the snow. It was very much how a normal dog would react to the first time seeing snow, and then it started falling on him. It's like, what is this? And cats too. They all kind of do weird things, and how they walk in it. It's hilarious.
He was trying to catch it.
So one of the things, Kinley, that they added was he does not meet John Thornton until John Thornton is his master.
Okay.
So this was a nice little touch. I liked how they you meet John Thornton early on and he comes back into play later. And the whole harmonica thing was made up too. But I really liked that. I thought it was funny how he had it in his mouth and he's like breathing it in and out. Like you could hear the sound effects.
Yeah, another thing that just really grossed me out was the thought of the dog slobbering on this harmonica that he's going to then play. And it's, 1890s, so they don't know things about soap and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't care. He just kept on playing that harmonica.
Especially during this time of the coronavirus, we're all like very conscious of health things right now and just thinking about that. It's really gross.
Germs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Perot, sorry. I really liked his character. He was very nice to the dogs. You could tell he loved the dogs. And
He
also
really wanted Buck to do well. Like he worked really hard to train because this was the first time that Buck had ever pulled a dog sled. So he had to work on teaching him how to follow orders from another dog.
And Francois was a female in the movie, and she was a male in the book. We don't know their relationship, if it was just business or if they were married in the movie. It wasn't really clear. But in the book, they were both guys, just
delivering the mail.
Just mail boys, good old mail boys. So, was that actress from something else important that we know of? I don't know.
I did not recognize Perot or Francois at all. So, but I will say the name Perot, I got excited about because for those of you who are familiar with Agatha Christie, she wrote a character, a Belgian detective named Poirot. And it's spelled differently, but pronounced, I think his spelling makes it, the pronunciation is like you would pronounce the Belgian detective's name as an American. But the Belgian detective's name is pronounced Poirot rather than Perot. But they pronounced this guy Perot. So anyway, it made me excited about his name. Nothing about the actor, just exciting name comparisons. So. Anyway.
Yeah, Jennifer, that's what I was looking to you for. Jennifer thinks that Perot was
Let's find out.
The guy from
He is in Jurassic World.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you're right. At the beginning of Jurassic World, when you meet Chris Pratt and he and the other guy are training the raptors, he was the other guy. So,
Yeah. And he had a small role in X-Men, Transformers, but nothing really major.
Who was he in Transformers?
The Bishop.
The bishop.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
But going back to this time, so Perot loves Buck. He's working on teaching him how to be a sled dog. But then Buck is also having to submit to Spitz, who is a husky, wolf-like dog. He's in charge of the sled dog team, but they start to get some tension amongst the team. And then Buck and Spitz have a fight ultimately for the leadership position. Buck almost dies. He almost dies a lot. And then somehow the call of the wild happens. And when Buck hears the call of the wild, a giant black wolf emerges.
So when she means by the black wolf, it was just like a representation of the call of the wild. But Buck would see, like he would see and this wasn't in the book really, but I liked the visual that they did with it. They just had like this giant black wolf that was always kind of watching him in the distance, and it just kind of represented the call of the wild to him, like his inner beast, his spirit guide too. So anytime where he was showing signs of not a house dog, but like actual wild dog, that wolf was usually around to show that
he was listening to his instincts, things like that.
Yeah.
So the spirit guide, inner wolf, appears and he rallies and then defeats Spitz once and for all. Spitz has to leave, and then the rest of the sled dogs like submit to Buck. They have this humorous scene where Perot can't find Spitz, doesn't know what to do, so he's going to move another dog in his place. Buck wants the leadership. He doesn't want Buck in the leadership. He's trying to move him back to the back, but none of the other dogs are going to dare take that leadership spot because they know it's Buck's.
Well, and you see, like, up until this point, when he's with Perot, like, it shows Buck basically learning discipline, becoming disciplined, because he was, crazy with the judge, and just being a part of this team. His work ethic has grown, and he's working hard. He's become part of the team. He's a team player, and the other dogs have looked up to him because of that. And so it's not even. I think it's more of the respect, not even a fear thing. They're not like backing down. They don't want to take the lead, not out of fear, but out of respect, because they respect him as their leader now.
Yeah.
So it's really a good moment.
In the movie and the book are very different. And I'll let you talk about the book difference. But in the movie, like Spitz is kind of mean. He steals people's food, where Buck gives people his food, or he like helps them in different situations. And so like he's really like caring for the team, like being a good shepherd of the dogs. And so that's why they give him the respect. But the book is much different. Yeah,
in the book, he and Spitz fight, and he kills Spitz. They basically fight to the death, and
he kills Spitz?
Yeah, he kills him. He destroys him.
And then the dogs like jump on him.
Yeah, all the rest of the dogs jump on him to eat him because they're like, oh, food. And so, yeah, it was pretty intense. And in the movie, they were what'd you say?
Dog eat dog world.
Jennifer off screen says it's a dog eat dog world. That's great.
Funny.
But anyway, and so in the movie, they basically just had Spitz just run away. So
well, and leading up to that point, instead of caring for the team, Buck is causing chaos. So he's like kind of encouraging the other dogs not to be obedient to Spitz and like causing all sorts of problems. And so the sled's not running as fast, and they're like losing time. And like Perot knows that a dog fight is going to happen, but instead of like sorting it out like the master he should have, he just like waits until tension rises, and then the dogs kill each other.
Yeah, in the book, he's even like, I tell you, one of these days he's gonna kill Spitz, and then he does. He's like, what did I tell you?
We're just like, oh.
And he's happy about it. He's like, what did I tell you? That Buck's crazy, isn't he? And I was like,
you just lost a major resource. Like, you're in Alaska.
He's just totally fine about it, but
I definitely think I like the movie better. Like with that part, version.
Like I really liked the fact that Buck was caring and kind and like a good leader. In the Buck, he's just like causing chaos, and then because he's caused chaos for so long, when he steps into leadership position, then he has to kind of like really herd everybody back into shape.
Yeah.
But they get the fastest time.
They do.
They actually make delivery time,
which they, in the movie, had never done before.
Right.
Same in the book. Yeah, they had never done it in the book.
Never did it. So I guess we'll move on to the next master.
Yeah.
I don't think that's anything else to talk about on that one.
So in the 1890s, we have this new technology called the telegram that's introduced. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. And so mail is not going as much as people need it to. Like they don't need it anymore because they can send telegrams. It's much faster and more efficient. So Perrault and Francois lose their jobs. They have to sell the dog team, which they're very sad to do. And Buck and the dog team are left to be sold to a new master called Hal, played by Dan Stevens. I'll let you talk about that in a minute. And Mercedes. And the Mercedes brother, I'm trying to remember his name.
Charles,
thank you. They are there to find gold, and it's very evident that they're from a prominent family, very wealthy, have no clue about hard work or what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
And they are mean and don't know how to handle dogs and are very abusive and like starve the dogs and are trying to push them through snow that is melting, and they're getting stuck in the mud, and like spring is coming, and it's just a hot mess.
And they don't understand like how to operate the dog sleds. Like they weigh it down way too much and are just pushing and pushing and pushing the dogs beyond what they're able to do. Yeah. They don't even know how to get the sled started, because isn't that when John Thornton showed him how to break the... Yeah, John Thornton pops up again, and he's just like, he just kind of went out and he's like, you're hurting these dogs. You're supposed to break the ice off of your sleigh first, and showed him how to do that. You want to talk about the actors and actresses?
Sure. So we've got 3 new characters. The first one, Hal's, played by Dan Stevens, as Beth said, who we love because he was in Downton Abbey.
Oh, I was like, I don't have no idea who this is.
Well, you would recognize him from Beauty and the Beast. He was the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, the new live action.
Oh, I did see that.
From 3 years ago or so.
I didn't know his name.
And he's just kind of been in a lot of random things since Downton Abbey. So this is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, well, I don't remember me seeing any other characters where he played an evil person. I don't... If he has, I'm sure he has, I just haven't seen them. Can you think of any that you've seen?
I haven't seen him play them. I do know that there's a couple more movies he did after Downton Abbey. Or I think he might have played a darker character.
Yeah.
But
he was a good villain.
Yes.
I thought he was a very good villain. They gave him the kind of wiry mustache.
Classic.
Very, villain-esque.
How many good guys do you know that have one of those mustaches?
Nobody. No, you see that mustache, you think they're bad.
Oh,
they're
Dark
gonna be
side.
bad.
Yeah.
So,
Immediately.
and immediately, I mean, it's very clear these people coming in, and because you're in this, I mean, we're in this small little mining town. It snows everywhere. You can tell it's kind of like a poorer area. They haven't found gold like they wanted to. And then you've got these 3 characters come in who are literally in furs,
Yeah.
And so it's just very evident these are going to kind of be your villains for a time period. And so, and how Dan Stevens played a very good villain. And then Mercedes is played by Karen Gillan, who we know from Doctor Who and Guardians of the Galaxy and a lot of other movies as well. So she was well fitted for that role, I think. And then Charles, her brother, Colin Waddell, who I do not know from anything.
Charles.
So he's been in, I think, The Call of the Wild
Charles.
was his biggest role so far. So there you go.
He's made it.
But I think these 3 definitely represented some ignorance, I think, that they were trying to show the rest of the world it's kind of interpretation of that time, those people, and it just showed how they thought they could just roll on up with everything they got and find gold, and they were good to go. So,
yeah.
But they were not prepared for that at all.
Well, and I like the fact we have John Thornton who comes back in, like you talked about, and he's like teaching them, like, okay, you got to break the ice off the sled because the dogs literally can't pull it. And then he's telling them, the snow is melting, the river is going to break at any point. You really, should think about waiting until you go, to find gold, because it's just like the conditions are not going to be good for much longer. And we have Hal, who's like, you just want all the gold for yourself. We're going to go anyway. And so it just really shows like people were very distrusting of each other. We have the great American dream of the gold rush where you can just get filthy rich easily is what a lot of people thought. And so I like that they mentioned in the story.
So it was an interesting little time period with these 3. It was short with this group of 3 at least. So
very short.
John Thornton kind of warned them, the snow's melting, ice is melting. They're trying to cross a river that was frozen. It was going to be melting. wait. He said, wait, don't go, because he's got these team of dogs, and they say, no, and they head on, and it's just kind of this ominous, like, what's going to happen, and then it shows them, they're in their furs, like sweating, like taking them off. They're in the mud because they're trying to push the sleigh through the mud, and John Thornton shows back up because he's gone to try and
save Buck. He's really worried about Buck.
Yeah.
And like the dogs at this point are exhausted because they haven't let them rest. They aren't feeding them anything, so they're starving, and Buck literally cannot go another step. Like, he has hit his point and he has just collapsed. And they're getting ready to shoot him.
He beat him again.
Yeah.
So kind of paralleling that mistrust of man.
They beat him again in the movie? I know they did in the book.
They beat him briefly. It was a brief beat. But
okay.
I thought it was interesting. I don't know if you noticed this. The character that first beats him is the man. His name is literally the man in the red sweater.
Yes.
So did you notice that Hal is in red
for the entire
for the entire time he's
sweater.
in red? And I definitely think that was just showing we've got people that have Buck's come to trust and love, but there's still that man out there who's gonna beat him.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like
So I thought that was
good symbolism there.
So,
yeah.
So
Red is dead.
Red is dead. So they're gonna shoot Buck. He doesn't shoot Buck. John Thornton kind of steps in to try and save him,
Cuts
but
the harness off.
Yep. But the rest of the dogs have to continue on, and I was freaking out that these poor little dogs were gonna have to go probably to their death.
Yeah.
So it was really, I hated every bit of that because it
was a hard part
they just
to watch.
walk on, and Buck's like unconscious, and so they see their leader, they're unconscious, and they just have to like go on with these three evil people. It was just terrible. I did not enjoy that part very much.
And then we find out the river does in fact break, and all the dogs, Mercedes and Charles, go down. Hal is the only survivor.
Yeah, and then in the book they all, including Hal, died. Hal is gone from there on, but he's still alive in the movie, which comes into play later on. But yeah, it was really sad to see that, like all those dogs. That was a really hard scene to watch. It's like, oh gosh.
Save the dogs!
Well,
but he could only save one, and somehow John Thornton gets this giant Saint Bernard back to his house.
Yeah.
And lets him sleep in his bed and nurses him back to health, which is really sweet. It's really cute.
Yeah. So he takes him in.
And we learn like what John Thornton's reason for being out there is. He's not out there for gold. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Hold on. You tell it, because I still can't remember.
Okay. So John Thornton isn't actually out there for gold at all, even though Hal keeps accusing him of finding gold or looking for gold. He is out there because he and his wife lost a child and their marriage fell apart.
Right. That's
and
what it
so
was.
he is just in so much grief that he has gone out to the wilderness to try to heal and just to be alone because he doesn't want to be around people anymore. So he leaves, like we see him like signing off a will, giving everything to his wife so she will be well taken care of. And he's just out here in the wilderness, just surviving and living life. And now he has Buck.
And one scene that wasn't in the movie at all, but I really liked, was he would go to a bar and hang out with like all the townspeople and everything. And at one point, and the whole town knows about Buck at this point. They all know who he is. And at one point they talk about, I bet Buck couldn't pull this much weight, or I bet he couldn't pull this much weight. And then John Thornton kind of says, well, I bet he can pull 1,000 pounds on a sled by himself. And so then, and they said, well, they started putting bets on it, and they're throwing money on it, wages on if he could do it or not. And John Thornton's like, all right, let's do it. So they all went outside to his sled, and they also made a rule that he couldn't break the ice off of the sled. And he went up to Buck and was like, you ready for this? And he was kind of excited, and he's like, all right, let's try it and see. And sure enough, Buck breaks the ice and how far did they have to go? Do you remember? It was like so many yards.
I think was it 300 yards?
Something like that.
It was maybe it was 100 yards. It was a long ways. It was a really long ways. He couldn't break the ice, and they put bags of flour on it, and John Thornton starts sweating it out because he's like, I don't know about this. I've literally put all of my money on this, money that I don't even have on this, and I'm not sure that Buck can actually do this.
Yeah. But Buck pulls through and does it, and he wins John Thornton a lot of money.
So
like
much
a
money.
ton.
Yes.
So
another one that was also not in the movie, but in the book was they fell in the river. John Thornton and his friends.
Yeah. John Thornton has two friends that are never mentioned in the movie that are like his business partners / friends.
Yeah.
And they do everything together. They just weren't present when he met Buck because they were off doing something and he's waiting for them to return.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But yeah, John Thornton almost dies and Buck like saves him out of the river.
Like dives into the river to get him and stuff.
Yeah.
So like they really have a lot of bonding moments in the book, and you can just see like Buck really loves him and really respects him. But then going back to the movie, because that's what we're here for, we go to the bar, and we also know that John Thornton has a drinking problem, and Buck is concerned about him. But Buck is waiting outside, and then Hal comes back. Our least favorite, but also a great villain.
In his red sweater.
In his red sweater, representing that. So yeah, Hal comes back.
Accuses John Thornton of killing his, sister and brother-in-law and all the dogs, even though John Thornton literally told him the river's going to break at any moment. Don't go. And he's ready to pull out a gun. Buck attacks, and then they kick Hal out.
They kick Hal out of the bar. That was the end of my sentence.
Well done. Kinley, do you want to talk about the fact, like, after they get back to John Thornton's house and, like, how they make their plans?
Okay, I want to talk about this.
Yes.
And I'm going to talk about this, but I've been researching because I wanted to check something. So I'm pretty sure in the movie, Hal says the dogs abandoned him. They didn't die.
Oh,
I was thinking that, and I just looked it up, and that is confirmed.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it says, and I
they're
don't,
free.
it doesn't specifically say about his sister and brother, but I think he said they like left him. They all
Okay.
just abandoned him.
Oh.
Which is interesting, but it's just another way in the movie they dumbed down some of the violence. I think, so of what had happened. So
Yeah. So maybe you and I just, since we recently read it, it was like,
But it
I
just
thought
says,
he said that they're
well,
all gone.
later at a
but,
bar,
yeah.
Thornton is attacked by Hal, who reveals the dogs abandoned him. And it doesn't say anything about his brother and sister. But I remember thinking, yay, the dogs didn't die. But we never see them again.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Hopefully they're out there living their best lives.
hopefully they felt the call of the wild, embracing their inner wolf. All right. So what were we talking about? Oh, making the plans. Okay. So here's one of my bigger issues with the movie. And I get that, like, this book and the movie, the whole thing is that this dog probably has a closer connection to humans than most dogs.
Yeah.
And probably acts more human-like than most dogs. But dogs cannot read maps.
No.
Okay? It happens
they cannot.
twice. It happens once with Perot, and then
Yes.
here they start making their plans of, like, where they're going to go. And I think John Thornton's son had
He wanted to go off the map.
wanted to go off the map, okay? And so John Thornton puts the map on the ground and in his cabin draws like a line of where they're gonna go, and it goes literally off the map. And so kind of undiscovered territory pretty much. Not necessarily to find gold, just to explore, just to go off the map, all right? Yet Buck reads the map with him and knows exactly where they're going,
He
okay?
knows the plan.
And
That's
I was
where we
just
go.
like, then, I mean, yes, he's more human-like, but he can't read a map. He just can't read a map. He can't read this map, okay? He can't read words.
Yeah.
He can't read a map, but whatever, I digress. So that's where they've decided to kind of head out to. They're going off the map.
and which he does it alone in the movie with did he have dogs or is it just Buck?
No, there were more dogs.
More dogs, but not his friends. The friends were non-existent.
Yeah, there were two other dogs that Thornton had.
Yeah. So,
That
but
went
anyway,
with
they
them.
set out to go explore just because why not have literal cabin fever, and
They canoe for a while.
they did some of that.
It's
Yeah.
nice in spring. It's beautiful. It's springtime.
Oh, I will say this movie was, one of the positive things was how beautiful it was. Like, maybe you want to go to Alaska and just look at it, but I'd be very cold.
You would,
So
except in springtime apparently. So in some
I
places,
would still be cold any time of the
You
year.
would.
I would.
You would.
I would not survive.
But it was a neat little like canoe ride interaction. You know, they're going and they hit some rapids a couple times and have to navigate
Yeah.
that. And It was just neat kind of seeing them explore, kind of go further into some beautiful land that had, for at least what they're thinking, no one's ever charted this area,
Right.
whether anyone's been here or not, it's not been charted. But we do find out that someone had in fact been there because they keep exploring and stumble upon this very much abandoned and kind of overgrown little cabin that someone had built.
Yes.
a hunter of some sorts.
Kind of like reminded me of Little House on the Prairie, like a lean-to.
Yeah.
It was like kind of in the dirt mound, but it was also kind of built out.
It made me think of a hobbit hole, and
Yes.
I think someone said like
Yeah.
because it was kind of up against a hill part, so
Yeah.
and it
I can
was
see
definitely
that.
overgrown with green stuff.
And actually,
There were
before
no
we
doors
get
or windows, which really freaked me out.
before we got to the cabin, though, on the way there was an avalanche that they went through.
That was with Perot.
That was with Perot.
Oh, was it with Bro? Oh, I
Yeah.
couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I guess we
Buck
forgot
escapes
about that.
the
'Cause it
avalanche.
was
He had a call of
springtime
the
with
wild
him.
moment where they see the snow and he's trying to turn the dogs left, and Buck turns everybody right and straight into it because he knew there was a cave because the call of the wild told him, and they
Yeah.
Saved
lived.
them all.
That was when they
Yeah.
were. That's when they beat or they made the mail on time. That was that.
That's what
run.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot what part of the movie that was
Yeah.
in. So okay, so anyway, back to the cabin.
Yeah.
Found the cabin.
And
They start cleaning it out.
they start kind of cleaning it out, fixing it up. You know,
Make
for
camp for the
themselves.
summer.
Make camp, and there's a little stream river that kind of goes in front of the cabin. And guess what? There is gold.
Gold.
So
Lots of
John
it.
Thornton starts finding some of these like little gold nuggets, and then I think Buck like is in the water and like throws him over like a piece of wood or something. He's like, "No, Buck, that's not what we're looking for." And in the meantime, like John Thornton's down like this. Buck pulls up this huge gold nugget,
massive.
huge, and then he hears him say, "No, Buck, that's not what we're looking for," and drops it back into the water.
Well, he pulled up a smaller piece and he said, "We're looking for this." So Buck was like, "Oh, I need to find one just like that." So he finds this massive piece, throws it away. He's like, "That's not what he wants," and then pulls up another one small. He's like, "Yeah, that's what I need." It was great.
It was
so
funny.
much money.
I was just like,
Cringeworthy, but also like, okay, whatever.
but still, he finds a lot of gold.
so
like
much that he's like playing chess or checkers
they
with
play
gold.
gold
Yeah,
feet.
yeah. Which dogs can't play checkers,
But he was.
but he was. He's a
They
special dog.
they also play harmonica back and
Oh
forth.
yeah.
Oh,
Every night,
cringy.
he and Buck would just take turns blowing into the harmonica, and then, well,
It was
that
very
happened.
interesting. So
But then Buck is like out here in the wilderness, and he's starting to connect more and more with the call of the wild, and he meets a pack of wolves. And so he starts hanging out with them. He saves one of them from drowning in a rapid, and every day he spends more and more time with them and less time with John Thornton.
and there's a beautiful little white wolf that he has his eye on.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Little flirting
tickles
happening.
his fancy. You know? So, yeah.
It kind of makes it sad for John Thornton, though, because he's his only buddy, and he's not hanging out with them anymore. And then one night, he doesn't come home to camp because he spent the night with the wolves, and John's alone with his harmonica. Just like, oh, the feels.
Yeah.
But
So then John Thornton decides, okay, like, I need to go back home. It's
He
time.
follows Buck and sees what Buck has
Yeah.
too.
That's
yeah,
true.
and so he
sees-
knows what's going on.
Yeah, and he's
Like-
happy for him.
Yeah.
He is.
But
It's just a bittersweet moment.
yeah,
A bittersweet moment. He realizes Buck has a new family, like he belongs out here, but I don't. It's been a great adventure, but I should go back home. And so he starts packing everything up, and he asks Buck to come back and say goodbye to him in the morning. And then Buck goes off with the wolves. And then we have a reappearance from our favorite villain.
how?
Red sweater and all.
Which, guess what? They definitely left the map with the drawing
Oh, yeah.
of where they were going
On
in
the
their
ground.
cabin. And
Don't they need the
humans
map?
can read maps, okay?
Yes.
Dogs can't, but humans can. So he did know exactly where they were going.
Well, kind of. He's like, it's just like, I'm just going to follow this line on the wood
Which
here.
that
and-
is, there was just, when he went off the map, there's just a line on the wood, and somehow he ends up exactly where they're
Yeah.
going.
Finds them.
But I think he basically followed the river and was able to
Yeah, hunt him down.
I guess that
hunt
makes
down.
sense, yeah.
So,
But yeah, so then, Hal has this huge confrontation with John Thornton.
he's got his gun, he's shooting. He
Yes.
shoots into his house.
Oh, yeah,
John
he
Thornton
did.
accidentally knocks the lamp over, so the house catches on fire. And Hal is, demanding justice. And Thornton says, "Here, take all of my gold." And he throws everything that's out of his pockets. It's not enough. He gets shot. And then it's really a sad moment.
Yeah.
Well, and Hal is enraged because the whole time he's been saying, you just want the gold for yourself. You're trying to hold the gold for yourself. And that wasn't what he was doing. But he
Yeah.
does come here and he finds gold. And now Hal sees him with gold and it just like snaps. So when the house catches on fire, the dog, the pack of wolves, and Buck see the fire and they go, and Buck goes at least rushing towards what's happening. And so right before Buck gets there, Hal shoots John Thornton.
Yes.
And then bucks Hal into the house of fire, and it collapses on him, and Hal burns up.
Burns.
So I guess there was one death.
The house of fire. The house of fire. Anyway, sorry.
It was the only death, I think, in that movie, really.
Hal? John Thornton?
No, I guess two. Yep. I guess John Thornton did die, didn't he?
Well, no, Spitz didn't die.
No, Spitz didn't die. But then Buck goes to John Thornton as he's dying and basically says, "Go be with your kind." Mm-hmm. And then
Buck stays with him to the last breath.
Yeah.
And then he runs off with his wolf family.
And it kind of shows, like, fast forward in time, they have little wolf cubs, and they're like, oh, there was this whole thing about him trying to get past a bear in the river, and it kept showing the scene of him with the bear.
Yep.
And in the book, he kills the bear. He's just like, I'm tired of this bear, and he kills him. And it was like, oh. And like throughout the book, it's like he goes from being this sweet, innocent dog to this savage wolf. And he's like very savage at the end.
He like takes down a moose.
Yeah, he takes down a moose all by himself.
Poor moose.
And, yeah, I think that was the last scene of the movie, was him and the pack of wolves chasing after the moose.
But he took one down by himself.
Right.
And then they go after it. But yeah, he's becoming more and more savage and more wild, and everyone and everything is fearing.
In the movie, though, he's still very much like a sweet, innocent dog still, or like on the face, you know. But
one thing that really bothered me throughout this whole movie is that Buck has very human-like teeth, which really bothered me.
I did not notice that.
I was like, oh,
I'm gonna pull a picture of
where
that.
is his dog teeth? But it was definitely like human teeth, and I was a little weirded out by that.
That was interesting. I thought it was, I think I get the direction the book was going in, and it's definitely different with him staying kind of, he's a dog, he's a disciplined dog, but he's earned the respect. I think it was more of he earned the respect through leading rather than through violence. The movie was more of just leading. He's led like this pack of wolves. He continues to save these people valiantly, you know, rather than just death to animals and other kind.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like a really cool, like full circle moment when you get to the end. Like he has become his own master, and he's leading a pack of wolves. And so it's really cool to see him go through like good and bad masters and what he's learned from them and what he's changed and done. And now here at the end, he is free and he's his own master. And it gives you a little moment of feels.
And he answers the call. That's how
of the wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I thought it was well written. I liked, and the narrator from the beginning and end is Harrison Ford, and so John Thornton.
That's true. Yeah, he was.
So that was neat, kind of a full circle kind of piece. So I do have a question from what you said, from difference from the book to the movie. You said Hal died with his sister and his wife, and were they married?
Sister and brother-in-law. Mercedes and Charles were married.
Okay, I could never get that.
Yeah.
His sister and brother-in-law. Okay, and the dogs. So I would still assume John Thornton died in the end. How did he die? If Hal didn't kill him.
How did he die?
Well,
I can't remember.
So Buck goes off on this like quest to take down a moose, because that just is like the biggest challenge at the moment. And it takes him 3 days to like wear the moose down and to kill the moose.
Yes.
And so when he comes back after this huge victory of his, the camp has been attacked by Native Americans.
Yeah, it was a bunch of Indians. They had he like shows up on the scene and he sees arrows everywhere. And he's like, what happened here? And he's like sniffing around and finds John Thornton and the other two friends' bodies like pierced and beheaded too. They were all beheaded as well. Yeah. And I was like, oh, gosh.
Yeah,
and then I was like, that's the end of the book? And then I just like put it down and I was like, wow, it's intense.
And so it just like, and it mentions like every summer Buck comes by and spends like a moment at the house, kind of like in remembrance of Mr. Thornton. And then he like runs off with his pack. But yeah. He met a very violent end.
Yeah, I think I like the movie a little better. So the movie, in summation, the book is not okay for your children, but the movie is.
Yeah, you read it in elementary school.
That's when I read it in elementary school. I remember nothing.
I personally liked the book better.
I did too.
I think that I went in expecting it to be more like the book. I guess I didn't think about the fact that it would have been, with its rating, I should have known they would have dumbed it down. So I went in with expectations that it was going to be more like the book, and it was not. So I guess we can transition to our reviews.
We can. I think I do want to say, I think I'm going to read the book now.
There you go.
I wanted to read it, so I get to read the book.
Go ahead.
Thank you. You just wait for a second. No, I'm going to read the book and see which one I like better. And it'll be interesting to see if this is one of the stories where there is one medium that's favorite, whether it's the book or the movie, or if it kind of just depends on which one you started with, to which direction you lead.
Could
because
be, yeah.
they can tell, even though it's the same story, depending on what you experience first, it can tell two different stories. So this one still told like his story, but I think it definitely, the movie made him more, because we dumbed down violence and all that stuff, it made him more of the like rescuer rather than the attacker, you know?
Well, and he was still a rescuer and still valiant. It was more violent. Like he had a much harder path to get there. And I would compare this to Tarzan the book versus Tarzan the Disney movie. Tarzan the book is extremely violent, and the stuff that he survived was insane. I love the book; it's amazing. Just because he has like such a huge struggle, and like he actually like teaches himself how to read and all this stuff, and then you have the movie, which is fun, and it still like tells the same story, but like it just highlights different aspects. And so, I actually watched Call of the Wild first, and then read the book. But
Oh, you did?
I favor the book.
Well, good. So we'll see what I decide. So
Yes.
if you're watching and you've read the book and you've watched the movie, comment on which one you prefer.
Yeah,
and
we would
why.
love to
Tell us
know.
why. We want to know.
Yeah.
So, all right, shall we do the
All right.
review? Who first?
John.
Me. I gave it a 5. Just because it let me down. But I still liked it. And I'll also give Jennifer's, because she gave me her rating as well. And she gave it a 4. So she said that was being optimistic.
So Jennifer
She said she'd
did
give it
not
an
like
optimistic 4. So it didn't follow the book. So
I gave it a 4.5.
Wow.
I know.
Not the lowest.
Not the lowest. Big deal, folks.
Because it did tell like a complete story, even though it was not the same as the book. That's okay. It did tell a story, and I gave it a half point more because like Doolittle, I didn't feel like it was a complete story.
Well, I gave it a 6.5. I did enjoy this. I didn't have anything to compare it to, and I felt like it was pretty, it was a really good story. I really liked the story, but the points off were for definitely giving Dog very human type qualities, and I didn't enjoy that. But it was a very beautiful movie. Like, it was well done. All the animation and all those different pieces I thought were pretty good as well.
I will say, I do not like the wilderness. I don't ever want to go camping or anything like that. But this movie made me kind of, it just like touched the inner explorer.
Unless you
within.
enjoy it from the inside.
And I was like, oh, I kind of want to go explore the wilderness. And then I thought about the reality of that and was like, no, I don't. But like it was really pretty. And I was like, oh, let's go to Alaska.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
I was trying to, as I've like thought back on the movie, I usually would take off some points as well for like plot issues or plot holes, and I could not.
Plot holes.
Plot holes. That's my new thing. Have coined
Plot
that.
Paving the
holes.
way with plot holes.
Plot holes. But I can't really think of any. I can't really think of any inconsistencies that I thought
No.
that didn't match up here from what they've said before, which I hugely appreciate.
Yes.
I pay attention to those details. So the fact there weren't any of those was a big deal for me as well. So
Okay. And what was Ashley's rating?
she didn't tell me.
Ashley, what do you think?
Oh,
6.
6.
Okay.
So she gave me a 6.
So that gives us average of 5.2 is our rating.
5.2.
So 5.2. What was Doolittle? 6 point something?
I don't remember.
Y'all know. Just go back and listen.
But yeah, so basically a 5.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch it again, but I thought for one time it was fine.
It was a one and done.
Yeah,
one
It
and
was a
done.
one and
Definitely.
done. Which I feel like we felt the same for Doolittle. So
Yeah.
I-
It was some entertainment. Something to watch, but let's move on to bigger and better things.
bigger and better things. So
Are we ready to talk about what we're talking about next episode?
So, with the coronavirus, everybody has probably heard that movie theaters are closed, which is what we are relying on. So, we are just going to, for the time being, review movies that are hot topics in the streaming world of Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, whatever. Beth, give us the movie that we will be watching and
I'm
talking
very
about.
excited about this, and I can tell you right now, it's going to have a high rating from me. Frozen 2.
Woohoo! So that one just hit Disney Plus
Yes.
last week, I think.
So go watch Frozen
Yes.
2 on Disney Plus and be ready to listen to it. I haven't seen it yet. Y'all both have seen it, right?
I just watched it.
You just watched
like
it.
3 days ago for the first
So
time.
it's fresh. Are
So
you going
it's
to watch
fresh.
it again, Beth, you think?
Oh, 100%.
I'm gonna watch it again.
I saw it
and take
twice
notes.
in
Okay, good.
theaters.
Is that good, huh?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit better than the first one. There's some good songs in there.
Well,
I'm ready.
I'm already going to tell you, I've heard somebody else say that, and I do not agree. We're not going to discuss it. This
No.
is your little teaser for next
This
time.
is a teaser.
To
I
come
must
back.
know right now. Is Sauna Man in there?
You will just have to watch.
Oh, okay.
You hate spoilers.
Yeah, why are you asking me for a spoiler?
Spoilers.
I was testing her, see if she would listen.
It was a test.
Yeah,
She passed.
you passed. Thanks, Beth.
No spoilers until next episode. But
I
we're
think
very
it's going to be a
excited.
hot one to discuss,
Yes.
too. So.
I thought it was going to be cold.
Oh, it won't be just cold. It'll
That
be
freezer burn.
frozen.
Oh, snap.
All right. Well, that's enough of that, because those were terrible jokes.
They were horrible.
I'm working on my dad jokes.
John's really good at dad jokes. He's got it. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
Alrighty.
guys,
So Friday,
for
this coming
listening.
Friday, it's going to hit. Did we
Yes.
say that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. This Friday, we're very excited about it. So.
Yes.
Which is the 27th?
27th.
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 Frozen 2. Be ready for it. So.
All right.
All right. Well, and that concludes this show. Beth, say the words.
Take us home, Beth. Take us
All
home.
right. We go big tonight.
Until next time, we go big tonight. And cut!